Okay, so yes, this is that people will have loved looking at my flowers, so I'm gonna give you guys a tour of them because they are very beautiful right now. Trader Joe's. Also want to talk about a book I found at the library. I think this came highly recommended from As Told by Kenya, so if I have some more time, we will go over it. I've already showed you guys the vinyls I've been listening to, but if you're on my Instagram, this was a vibe the other night as I was cooking. Anyway, I just saw a video that I have to respond to and I actually got dressed up for it. So this is a shirt that says Little Walter. I will make another video describing who Little Walter is, but this is one of my uncles. And there's a movie called Cadillac Records, and he is one of the characters in the movie. Funny enough, Beyonce's in the movie. I feel like that's when I actually started to care about Beyonce because I was like, wow, I can't believe she's in this, telling this story. Anyway, let's go back for a second. So I just saw a video that I have to make a response to right now because it just hit me in a way that like, I can't not talk about it. So there's this little black girl who talks about how she's homeless. I'm not sure if it's now or if it's like she was, and I don't know, I guess her channel might focus on this. And she's telling the story about how she was kicked out. Now, I'm gonna start to premise this with resources. I feel like I'm not sure if when I was doing a little bit more writing about these sorts of issues, if I was sharing just on an old burner Instagram account, but some of the topics that I am describing, I will actually make longer videos about that are full of resources. Anyway, so basically this little 15-year-old girl and her twin and her mother were all kicked out by their father. So she has a single mother. There's two 14-year-old kids. I think that's about like high school age. And she's talking about her faith and her religion and how because there's something about like her father not wanting to take care of them because of the religion or something. So this is Tylenol. If you're it's Tylenol. Anyway, yes. So I heard this, and here's the first. Then she goes on and she tells a story. I'll put the video in the description box so you can watch the video, and if you have ideas or things that you want to share about it, please do so. Comment there. But she says how like her and her mother and her sister slept on a park bench that night. Now, here's the thing that I have learned about the American system and primary culture. Like, if you are, and let's just talk about women generally, but especially black women, if you are a black woman in America and you are actually Christian and you are living a life like that, this should never be, you shouldn't ever go hungry or be sleeping outside. That is because there are like infrastructure tools, like if at any time you don't have anywhere to sleep, hopefully you will have family members to call. But in this case, this girl is expressing how her family abandoned her. Basically, like the other family members, it sounds like there were some, they told her and her mother that she would just land on her feet. They didn't believe that they needed help. So they just let them fall to the wayside. I see this all the time in the black community. I don't know why. People just assume because their own lives are hard, that everyone else's life has to be hard. And they don't do, I know, this is so pretty, isn't it? I know. And so they don't do anything to try and improve the society for others, because they're just like, well, it was shitty for me, so it's gonna be shitty for you too, just like that, right? Yeah, that's really dumb. Okay, and so you probably want to build a community for yourself around people who actually do care and who are going to try to help you. And if you don't know where to start and you're here, I am building that community. If every time I come across more and more people who, at least in terms of like life goals, are like-minded, I will continue to share that. But to make some things clear, this girl seems extremely conservative, and it seems like her family members are as well. Seems like the father might have been a little bit more liberal or something. Either way, in times of need like this, when you cannot rely on your family members, you actually can go to the church. And I want to say, I've told this story before, but my grandmother, who is this guy's sister, she had 9 children, and she was religiously Catholic, and she heavily relied on the church for so many things. Like anytime if like she was about to lose housing or something, she will go to the church. The church, that's where they have those tide pools, you know, where people like donate in the tide pools. They will help you. Like they have lots of resources to help the community. That's what the church is for. Like out here, especially, and I think half of the issue is in like some of the extremely liberal places, they have like chastised churches to the point where they forgot the purpose of the churches. It's not just for like ethical morality, it's also for community building. And that's one thing I think that if I call myself a moderate because like I understand the need for things like churches or schools in society for it to function. And I also feel like one of the largest problems that I see amongst continental Africans specifically who come to America is their own like tribalism and inability to function in the real world. And what I mean by that, if you look at some of these countries, they're failing on systematic levels, right? Like people are starving. Like in Ethiopia, people are starving. So there's no way that you can be a great leader and people are starving. You know what I'm saying? Like people are fleeing the country and they're coming here, and here's the other thing I want to say, and I actually feel like I've heard this multiple times from Tariq Nasheed, who will continue to say over and over, like, you have no right to tell Black Americans anything when literally your people are dying and being wiped out. It's kind of like whatever is happening with Israel and Palestine and all of these things. Here's the thing also that I want to say, because there are all of these like you know, models, influencers, all of these people who seem to have these like big thoughts about, you know, what's happening on either side. The one thing I will say is I see the side of Israel taking a stance and saving people. Like, they're being attacked as well, but like also every single Jewish person that I know, that I've seen, that I follow, like I'm just saying I follow Ben Shapiro, and I'm not saying I get all of my input from him, but other Jewish people that I'll talk to, you know, the entire time his stance has not changed. It hasn't like altered. He's been boots on the ground trying to like help his people so that they will like live. It's like, yes, that makes sense. People who want to like live will do that. Other people, why do I see like, you know, these are like the most notable examples, but on the other side, we've got like Mona and Gigi Hadid and, you know, all of these, whoever is practicing like Islam or right, like, and they're coming out and supporting Palestine. I think genocide is wrong, but I also think that the American way of doing things is around theory. Okay, we have like academics with theory, and I feel like this is a really wonderful way for Ta-Nehisi Coates to step in right now, because he is like the theoretical monarch. And all of us here who are like kind of bored in society trying to find things to like occupy our like mental load with, we can listen to Ta-Nehisi Coates talk about the past and the future and society, and we can make response videos to that. This is how we have been engaging, right? Like, this is our lane. This is our lane. This is what we do. But if you are actually a part of that community, like I'm not a part of that community. If you are actually a part of that community and living in it, you don't have time for a Martin Luther King approach. You need to be Malcolm X on the ground. That's all you have time for. It's Malcolm X or nothing. And I feel like that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, when Black Americans were in that situation, like, you know, what Tupac said, and like Malcolm X and Tupac were making points. And I feel like a lot of people were just like not listening. They were like, blah, blah, blah. And then we got drill rap. we got drill rap, we got trap, we got hip hop moguls like Diddy. If it's not clear, Diddy took no prisoners and took all the money. And anybody who wanted to say anything, they all went down. I mean, obviously he's like reaping what he sowed, but at the same time, he took no prisoners and got to the bag. So, and we got some bops along the way. We got some bops along the way. So, I don't know, like, it's kind of difficult. I think that, let's go back for a second. This girl shouldn't have been sleeping on a park bench. Why? Because she is actually religious. Seems like she's very conservative. Why didn't she think to go to the church and tell the church, like, you can call up the church preacher. There's like always some assistant or something. Or here's another thing I will say. Black churches don't seem to operate in the same way that white churches do. And I don't want to racialize everything, but I guarantee you right now, if you were living in Tennessee and you were going through the situation with that woman, first of all, there's something called the mission out here, and a whole bunch of people donated millions of dollars, and so now there's an entirely new women's facility. It's brand new. It opened this year. I'll put a link to that in the description box. Like, why didn't they just go live there? Fucking take a Greyhound train. There's a Greyhound station that's like fucking in my neighborhood. It's like 5 blocks away. Like, why are you choosing to live like this? Change. Do something different. You don't have to live like this. Not if you're a woman. I'm sorry. You just don't. It's not that deep. Like, you fix it. Fix it. Fix it. Okay. And let's keep going. So she doesn't, even as religious as this little girl is, and she has a mother. How does the mother not know this? And here's another thing I will say, and I'm going to insert more resources here. You should, if you're a female and living in America, you should really be following some of these women, really all of these women who are talking about these issues that are directly related to women. They're describing how to, they're describing kind of the red flags in male relationships, how they can be really dangerous for you, how to stay kind of safe in some way from them, because it is scary out here. Like, imagine being a father and actually putting your children out. Imagine that. That's wild. Imagine being a parent and putting your children out. This is why women have to start thinking like that. The abortion pill is critical in the Black community because you need to think like that too. In the same way that he put his children out, that's how that mother should have been thinking before she birthed his children. And I'm not saying that the children that are here now, obviously, like, I'm happy that this girl is telling her story, but it's also a story of tragedy when you really think about it. Like, the path has been trodden here, right? Like, all of the problems actually have been solved, and the bigger issues are people just there's no accountability. Like, why isn't the community holding this father accountable and being like, you're a piece of shit, you know, like your children are sitting on the sidewalk, piece of shit. Like, that's literally how a lot of people in this community would like behave and believe if he was behaving like that. It's unacceptable behavior. It just is. You don't do that. It's wrong. But it's okay, because even like, here's another thing, and I want to like say this in words because I put it in my community, but maybe some people missed it. Remember Hurricane Katrina, right? So Hurricane Katrina comes, the levees broke. I remember I was in high school and we had to watch that movie. Very impactful, because it was like just so clear how the government isn't going to save us. Now, here's the thing. It always hits Black Americans first, right? But then, it just like everyone else watches. Like, it hits Black Americans as a group first, and then everyone else watches, right? They don't do anything. Typically, they take no action. Some people who are kind of like, how do you say, not connivers, but you know, like, they'll find like little opportunity gaps and they'll try to like pick them apart and be like, ooh, okay, so this is how I can kind of get over, given that this happened. Ooh, that's how they treat them. Oh, man, let's make sure they don't treat me like that. You know, they'll do things like that, but they won't like solve the problem for that extremely marginalized group, i.e. Black Americans. So Then I want to continue to tell this story, but let's give the cliff notes so I can go back for a second and give some other examples. So then things like Hurricane Helene happens. Now, Hurricane Helene, I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't heard direct references to Katrina and saying how awful it was or how, I don't know. It was bad though. Hurricane Helene's really bad. There are lots of places that are literally underwater. Now, in my mind, I'm not gonna say I saw this coming, but kinda I did. And the reason that I have been turning on my camera this entire time talking as a Black girl who has real clear intentions to go back to Africa is because I want you guys to, some of my videos, the old ones are mad. I don't know if you guys were here when someone broke into my mailbox. That was nuts. And it was I don't want to say it was a community effort, but I'm not going to say it wasn't. Okay. Whole bunch of other things that have happened. And here's the thing, was anyone accountable for it? Was anyone held responsible for it? No. And because no one was held responsible for it, all that happened is the people who did it, they figured out how to get away with another crime. And now we see California just full of criminal activity. It's falling apart. Do we care? Not really. And then it's on the other hand, I'm watching all these videos by Fetty vlogs and Queen Desta, who are making videos every day of how they're thriving in Ethiopia. And I'm I can't wait to thrive in Ethiopia too. It's gonna be great. It's just or there's a lot of other cities I want to travel to, but it's going to be fucking great, right? And it's so funny. First they come for us, and then they come for you. And the sad part is when they come for you, because they already got practice coming for us, and there was all the downstream effects. Because there's always the one person who's that was wrong. And maybe they didn't get any justice or contribute to any solutions at all. But there's always the decent people who are ooh, that was wrong. And they'll say it, maybe they'll talk about it in their own communities. Usually like attracts right? So shady people are typically together, and as they're doing their shady shit, they're all gossiping together about it, right? And then all the other people who are damn, I would never do that. They all get together and they're oh, look at those shitty motherfuckers over there. It's kind of like that. It's the people, the funniest thing actually, back when I was still doing research, I was following this guy, Jeff Clune. Now, I just liked him for his research, but then he posted something that really it was a fucking light went up. I was wow, this guy's an actual decent dude too. So it was all these things with the black squares, and people were talking about Black Lives Matter and all this shit. And some of the people in the research community were this isn't helping, why are we doing this? I don't wanna, we shouldn't be talking about race issues and shit here. Let's keep it about, academics or whatever the group was. And there were a whole bunch of leaders on LinkedIn who were basically doing the same thing. They were this is a space for networking, don't bring your social issues here. This is what they said. And I was what? I'm watching this shit, and I was oh, this is fascinating. So what are they gonna do when they don't have any more? There's not, because there's people who operate in the society, right? So if you've racism'd out all the people, then who are you building, who's participating in the economy? So now it's all of the new generations, right? We've had TikTok and we've had video essays. So we've been talking about the shitty, somebody's making the camo look. Wow! My name is Brute. Yeah, and I'm a cat. Yeah, my name is Brute. Yeah, and I'm a kitty cat. Yeah. So what happens when now all of the new generations are oh my God, no, we're not having children. We don't want to live in this society. We don't want to raise anyone else in this society. Everybody's moving out. And they're oh no, the population's decreasing. Oh my God. And then it's just the people who are, it's only them now left because they're we don't care about anything. We only want to participate in, I don't know, whatever the shit that they were talking about. And everybody else was kind of trying to be decent, right? It's funny, but it's not. It's Like, we saw it coming. That's what we're trying to say. Like, we saw it coming. And it's like, none of us are shocked. Oh, it's so frustrating when you've been saying it for so long. And then they just believe, they're like, oh, well, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. And then one day, like, it's just them. It's just that, like, they've literally just, like, hurt everyone. And there's no one else. All the hurt people have, like, gone back into their, like, you know, bubbles of hurt. And everyone's like, ooh. They figured out ways to kind of, like, mitigate the, like, effects of the hurt, right? And it's just them sitting there being like, well, let's push forward, push forward. Like, how do you say? The chickens always come home to roost, okay? And, like, I think it's probably pretty important to, like, sit, stand, talk by your truth, by the way that you're actually experiencing something, not the way that you want others to believe that you're experiencing it to put up a good front, but the way you're actually experiencing it. Just want to say that.